Yay! Thank you. I haven't understood a word from it, but I guess it means give us some round of applause. So, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael. I'm coming from Belgium. And I want to talk to you about my experience, the theory, the models behind the development of mobile apps and game apps. Now, it's my second time that I'm at the SQA Days. The first time was almost a year ago in Minsk, the edition 20. This is edition 22. And when I saw the announcement on Facebook and on the webpage, I was immediately sold. I mean, St. Petersburg, excellent city, lovely history, and then that conference, 2 days packed with interesting presentations, great audience, more than 500 people. I had to be there. So the first thing I did was look up some information about St. Petersburg. Now, what do you need to do when you go on travel to a different location? You need a couple of things. First of all, you need a presentation. Well, at least we got that covered after a few technical hiccups. So that is there. The second thing you need is a plane or some means of transportation. That was also taken care of. And the third thing you need is a hotel, a place to stay. Now, while preparing this presentation, I was looking for a hotel, and it occurred to me that the things I've learned in my day-to-day life were happening while looking for a hotel. I was being misled. I was being fooled. I was being tricked over and over and over again. And I didn't even mention it, or I wasn't even aware that I was misled. It felt so natural that I actually didn't know what to do. What did I undertake? Well, I need to book a hotel, so I go to the world's largest booking site, Booking.com. Or shouldn't have said Booking.com because my compliance agency said I couldn't use it. So the world's largest booking site. And I was looking for a hotel in St. Petersburg from this day to this day. Let's get started. And everything fine here. And the first result that showed up was this one. I don't know it live in apartments, what it is about or what it is. But what you see is a lot of misdirection, misleading. What you see here is a lot of marketing. It's exceptional, 9.8. It is location 9.9. It is a guest favorite. It is bigger than most apartments in St. Petersburg. And there's only one like it. I can only hope that there's only one of that apartment, of course. And then the price, 439 euros. No, it's 241 euros. You have to be foolish not to do that, right? And there's even more, free cancellation, no prepayment need. There's a lot of activities, triggers, that make me want to book that hotel. Well, I was not looking for an apartment, I was in fact looking for a hotel. But I decided, okay, I want to see if it's actually so good, it's exceptional, it has an excellent location, what that means. So I clicked on it, see all available apartments, and I got this page. Now what you see on this page are two signs of misdirection, misleading. You have this over here. Expires in 13 minutes and 28 seconds. Well, that gives you a sense of urgency. I need to book this now. The moment you are pulled into urgency, what happens is that you're not making an objective decision anymore. You are making a subjective decision. For those who have kids, for those who have a partner, they know what I'm talking about. The moment you're in a fight, that you lose control over your conscientious mind, then you make wrong decisions. You start being angry. You're not objective anymore. So you try to fool you with a timer that says nothing about reality, that you should book it right now. And then you have here at the top, someone just booked this. Okay, who is that someone? Maybe somebody from Booking.com himself. And what is just booked? Well, if you hover over it, you see this one. Last booked 22 minutes ago. Now, okay, that is something I can call just booked, until you read the fine print of Booking.com and you see that the statement last booked or just booked means within the last day. So 23 hours and 59 seconds is also just booked. Can be dangerous. Now, those are two signs of misdirection that wants to trick you in booking that hotel right now. About the scores, there's also a fancy mechanism. You see, it has an excellent score, 8 out of 8.8 on 10. Now, excellent score, 8.8. For me, that's not excellent. And you see 1,700 something reviews. I was looking for the information where that comes from. What is that criteria for excellence? Then you drill down. In order to see these results, you have to click 4 times. They don't just appear. No, you have to look for them. So I have an average score of 8.8, but that average score is not an average score. It's the average of all the averages, because it's at loss of factors, what is it, cleanliness, comfort, location. What does that mean, that generic score? Is that if you have a very clean hotel, if you have a very comfortable hotel with friendly staff, you might have a location which is scored 3 out of 10, and you will not even notice it, because it's the average of averages. So any hotel will get a proper rating if you add factors to it. The sound keeps on falling away. Is that mentionable? I hear that there are hiccups in the sound sometimes. There are problems with the sound. Yeah? Okay. Based upon the review score, I try to do that myself. Now, unlike tools like Amazon or such, it doesn't have a score from 1 to 10. If you score 1 out of 10, it's clear what you score. No, they use a smiley face. Like most organizations, they use red, amber, green, or smiley faces. So you have a very unhappy face, a little bit unhappy face, a little bit happy face, and a very happy face. Now, normal people might assume that if you are very, very unhappy, if you score it to the left, you score a 1 out of 10. And if you are very happy, it's a 10 out of 10. Not for Booking.com and not for most sites that want to trick you. No, it is the lowest one is a 2.5 out of 10. And the second lowest is 5 out of 10. And the third is a 7.5. So even if you are unhappy and you are being polite, if you say, I'm not that happy, but I score it the second smiley face, a little bit unhappy, you give it a 5. So immediately you upgrade the score, the review score, with 2.5 points, just because of their own review system. That is misdirection. That is psychology. Now, about psychology. The average human attention span, that is my average human attention span. I'm doing something, and I get an email, I get distracted. That is your attention span, the time between that you can focus on an action. Research has shown, that's research done in Canada by Microsoft, that your attention span has markedly decreased in 15 years. In 2000, your average attention span that you, as a human, could stay focused was 12 seconds. 2 years ago, it dropped down to 8.26 seconds. So over 15 years, we lost 4 seconds of attention. That is not due to our nature. That is due to our usage of mobile devices. That is due to our usage of having constant being triggered by external influences. Now you might say an average attention span of 8 seconds is not that bad if I can focus for 8 seconds. Well, if you then take a look in biology, a goldfish can stay concentrated for 9 seconds. Now, I don't know what's up with that scientist, because I cannot think of a scientist that wakes up in the morning and say, I'm going to measure the attention span of a goldfish and how you should do it, but it exists. So that's psychology. We cannot stay focused anymore. We are losing our focus. Another part of psychology is how you design things. And for the male audience, I have a picture that makes that very clear. The design of urinals. For the male audience, that's always a problem. And for the designers also. If you put only 2 urinals, then one of them is not being used because men don't like to be standing next to each other. So you're not using 2 urinals. If you use 3 urinals, then only the outer right and the outer left is being used. Unless if you want a man that is standing in the middle who's looking for companionship. If you use 4 urinals, either the outer right is being used and then the second from the left, or the outer left is being used and the second from the right. So you're losing 50% of your capacity in terms of urinals. Now, I'm not going to use the MeToo hashtag, so I also have an example for the ladies. Just the toilets. When you open up a public toilet, you have all these cabinets of toilets. There's also design. Our unconscious mind, when we open up a toilet, and there are multiple cabinets, tells us, avoid the first toilet. Because the first toilet is the most used, and thus it's the least clean of everyone. And we also unconsciously avoid the last toilet, because there the most shady things are going on. What happens in reality There was a study being done. I said, scientists are crazy. What kind of studies they do? They measured the amount of toilet paper used per toilet. And in fact, the first toilet, if you put all toilets together to 100%, the first toilet only counted for 10%, and the last for 15%. The rest in the middle, 30 to 40% toilet paper. So because we think consciously that the first toilet is the most used and we avoid it, other people also avoid it, and in fact it becomes the less used. That's psychology. That plays a trick with us. That's again misdirection. So what are UX designers doing now with toilets to avoid that bias? Well, if you have a public toilet, they put the first toilet, the handicapped toilet. That's something most people will avoid nevertheless. So everybody goes to the second toilet, problem solved. That is how a solution can be addressed to a psychological problem. However, not every psychological problem can be addressed. This one. I'm not going to even discuss what is right, because everybody knows the one on the left is the right one, so no discussion there. Let me take you on a trip down memory lane. 1996. Who was already born in 1996? Okay, most people, okay. Do you remember this one? The Tamagotchi, the virtual pet. Kids who loved it. You had to push buttons to feed it, to nurture it. We thought they were silly. We thought they were foolish. We thought they were a waste of time. Kids spent approximately 1 hour a day to nurture it, to feed it, to keep it happy. 1 hour of attention per day put to a Tamagotchi. Forward 2 years, 1998, there came the Furby. The Tamagotchi, but now with a friendly face. You could touch it. You could make it speak. It understood your words. The time you had to invest to keep it happy was 120 minutes per day. Otherwise, it started complaining with that nibbly voice of its. Fast forward to today, 2017. We have a new Tamagotchi. That's our Tamagotchi. The average user, and an average user, that's not the audience here in the room, because you're not average users, you're power users, you're IT natives. The average user, that includes your grandmothers, your aunts, that ask you, what are you doing? You're testing? What are you testing? What is that testing? They don't understand what you're doing. These are the average users. They use their smartphones in 2,600 activities per day, sessions of usage. 2,600 times a day, an average user picks up his or her smartphone. That can be for something very simple as reading the time, because nobody's wearing a watch anymore, we have a smartphone. That can be for snoozing, and our people who snooze almost 600 times a day. But we use it a lot. In terms of time spent, we have 145 minutes of actual usage per day. 2.5 hours that we are continuously, actively using our smartphones. I have no better image to show than this one. 2005, St. Peter's Square, Rome. Death of John Paul II. People are mourning, people are watching, people are there. 8 years later, the inauguration of the new Pope. That is what's happening. A couple of months ago, a band called Placebo had a concert, and at a certain point in time, the leader of the band, Brian Molko, stopped the concert. He was so annoyed with the audience only videotaping with their smartphones a concert that he said, stop right there. Either you put away your smartphones and you start following the concert, because there's no feeling anymore. People were not living the concert. And after he said that, he took up the concert once again, and the audience became singing, they became laughing, they were dancing. It was a completely different sense. We are so hooked to our smartphones, to our IT infrastructure, that we forget what it's actually about. They become so invasive in our lives. Now also, that is psychology. Psychology and the usage of our smartphones is formed by habits. And what is a habit? A habit is any behavior that you do with little or no thought, that you don't think about. Now, we are masters of habit. The majority of what we do comes from habits. We recognize 3 different types of behavior. We have conscious behavior, subconscious behavior, and unconscious behavior. The conscious behavior counts for 10% of our day activities. We know that we are doing something, and we know why we are doing it. The subconscious behavior right here is the biggest part. We know that we are doing something, but we do not know why we're doing it. You're going to the toilet, you take with you your smartphone. You are reading a newspaper, you grab for your cup of coffee. That is your subconscious behavior. Your unconscious behavior are the things that you do not even know that you're doing them. Walking around silly on stage at a presentation, for example. Or touching your hair, or nose picking. All these are unconscious behaviors. Habits count for 40% of your daily activities. So if you can come up with a solution in design, with an application, with software that becomes a habit, people will do that 40% of their time, day to day. Now, in order to come to such a habit, you have to design psychology. You can do that in two ways. Either you make something an experience. An experience is a trip that has a start and an ending. An experience can be the unboxing of your new smartphone. You stand in line for a couple of days, a couple of weeks even, if it's a very new product. You take the product home, you carry it around, you open up slightly, you take pictures, and oh, the new smartphone is there. It opens up, it's so nice. That's an experience. That's very, very difficult to do. That only tops 1%, 2% of the products. The other way to do it is to link, to hook your solution, your application, your software to an actual problem that a user has. If you create a solution, if you create software and you're not addressing a problem, then you actually don't have a solution and nobody will pay for it. Now, how to do that? That has been calculated. There is a model being made. That model is called the hook. And the hook is a model that most companies use. Companies like Facebook, like Google, like LinkedIn, like Pinterest, all use this model, both from a mobile point of view and from a web development, application development, gaming point of view. Hook is a model created by a guy called Nir Eyal. He wrote, by the way, an excellent book called How to Build Habit-Forming Products. And the hook is comprised of a number of activities. The first activity, the first phase, is called a trigger. A trigger is something that will launch an action. And a trigger can either be external, where something from the outside will tell you what to do. We all know examples of that. You have the click here button, the order now button, the login. So what you are supposed to do is written inside the trigger. There's no conscious mind needed for that. Now the external trigger is quite hard. If you want to tap into the behavior of people, you have to go for an internal trigger. And an internal trigger is something that comes from inside yourself that you don't have any control over. An internal trigger are always correlated with negative emotions. You're angry, you're lonely, you're bored. If you can make with your product a link between an internal trigger, negative feeling, and an action, then people will continue to use your product. Studies show that people who suffer from depression, so who feel very bad, check their emails 400% more than other people. That's enormous. So if you become depressed, you are looking for human contact. Because you're looking for human contact, you start to check your email more often. And because you check your email more often, you're more behind your PC and thus finding less people. So you become more depressed. Let me give you some examples of these internal triggers because you will know them all, even though that you don't know them. Those are subconscious triggers. What do you do if you feel unsure? Excuse me? Google, exactly. If I feel unsure, if I have doubts, I look something up on Google. Let me Google that for you. Nobody is, or Wikipedia. Nobody is thinking, wait, I go to the library, I go pick up a book. No, we go on Google, 5 seconds work, and we believe everything that Google says. Another internal trigger, I feel lonely. I arrived here yesterday evening, I was not lonely, but I was already 5 minutes. Okay. If you feel lonely, what do? You go to Facebook. You feel uninspired. You go to Pinterest to surface some designs. You feel bored. You go to YouTube to find some videos of nice cats playing around. That is the trigger that motivates you to do something. So the first step is the trigger. The second step becomes the action, what you are going to do. And that is also psychology, because you can learn people to take a certain action depending on the trigger. Most common example comes from dogs. The Pavlov reflex. You feed dogs, and while you feed them, you whistle. Well, every time you whistle, after a couple of times, the dog will come, even though it will not be fed. That also happens with humans. You can get a trigger and an action, and you can learn people to apply that action. There's a mathematical model to design how to do that. Comes from this guy, B.J. Fogg, who invented that for any activity, for any successful product, you need three things. You need a trigger. We already talked about that. You need a certain motivation. You need to have a reason why. For those who are in an analysis, any good requirement needs a rationale or a why. As a user, I want to because of. That's your because of. And you need an ability. You need the technical opportunities, you need the resource, you need the time to do it. The combination of those three makes that you have a predictable model whether somebody will do something, yes or no. The formula is behavior equals motivation plus ability plus trigger. If you put that on a graph, you have your motivation on your y-axis, so somebody is highly motivated or lowly motivated. You have your ability, something is very hard to do or something is very easy to do, and then you have that red threshold. Everything which is on the left-hand side, right here, if you have a trigger, that will fail. If something is too hard to do, or if I have too low motivation, then nothing shall happen if a trigger occurs. If something is very easy to do, or I have my high motivation, then my trigger will be successful. So you can measure that. Now what happens into reality is that most companies are trying to push that ability curve further to the right, to make it easier for people to do things. I can order a car in one click. That is pushing the ability to the right. I can contact you worldwide in one click. I push the ability to the right. My 6-year-old kid can make an in-app purchase in any game with one click with my credit card. I push the ability to the right. So we have the trigger, we have the action, and the next phase is the reward, because we all want to be rewarded for something. The reward, then we go into biology. Our brain has something called the nucleus accumbens. That's a small particle of the brain that gives you pleasure. Not only pleasure, that gives you desire. Well, here comes the bad part of my story. I first, for desire, had people on the bed acting like they were having sex. I couldn't keep it in due to my organization. Do you know how you create desire? Like this. Asking a question and waiting for it. Waiting for something is the biggest desire that you can have. Asking to people, do you want to earn $1 million, and then keeping silent is the best way of creating desire. And I'm not talking about this one. That's also desire, but that's a very good movie from the 80s. That's something else, no? I'm talking about this kind of desire. Yeah, I replaced sex with chocolate, almost the same. So one way of going for desire is by waiting. Asking a question and waiting for an answer. Keeping silent. It is you supercharge that desire. A second way of creating desire is by leaving people in the unknown. To let people to explore. That's another way to measure or to create desire. And the final and most strongest way to supercharge desire is, of course, variability. And that is what you need to build into your products, even as testers. Variability or variable rewards are the highest in creating and foreseeing desire. Now, these variable rewards, these are the strongest rewards. These are stronger than fixed rewards. And again, I told you in the beginning, I would talk about a lot of crazy scientists. Scientists have tried to find a correlation between fixed rewards and variable rewards. So they put rats into a cage, and if the rat presses a lever, a button, then food would drop. In 50% of the time, food would drop. So in fixed rewards, the rat pushes, gets cheese, the second time nothing, the third time yes, the fourth time nothing. There's a sequence in there. And the rat is creating a habit. After which, they took other rats and they started to introduce variable rewards with the same chance of getting cheese. So it remains 50%, the same time that people, or that rats get fed. Now what happened here is you create variability in here. The first time the rats get nothing, the second time they get something, so the rat thinks, okay, the third time I get nothing, and in fact it got something. So the reward becomes variable. In that case, the desire, which was measured by the endorphins in the blood, has reached 52% higher states. So if you can motivate people to come up to variable rewards, you get a higher desire. Now, any form of variability corresponds to 3 different rewards: the tribe, the hunt, and the self. The tribe is your social behavior. You enjoy being with other people. You want some social rewards. That's why you need some investment also. You're going on Facebook, you're going on social media because you want to find out that you're still in that group. How many followers do I have? How many likes do I get? How many times is my post being viewed? That's important. That is something for yourself. The second part, the hunt, goes back to our history. We are looking for resources. Resources, either material resources, something that we can lay our hands on, or information resources. Material resources, take slot machines for example. That's a material resource. We know that we are getting fooled. We know that we are lacking the theory, the structure to win from the casino. Casino always win, but still we have some variability in there. We put money in the machine, we press the lever, and we might get something. That variability, even though we know we're getting fooled, makes us go to the casino over and over again. On the other hand, you have variable information rewards. If you go on Facebook, you have your friends. Facebook, due to data mining, knows what images, what pictures, what posts you like, which friends you like the most. Facebook, even though they know it, will not post these images, these posts at the top. No, they make them variable. They make you deliberately scroll. One time they make an image of something you like on the 2nd place, the next time on the 8th place, that you have to scroll further. Because it's variable, you will see more data. You will see more advertising, and thus Facebook makes more money. They measure that, they play with you. That is your variable information reward. Finally, there is the variability of the self, where you want to improve yourself. You look for mastery, you look for competence, you look for consistency. There is no gratification, there's no monetary reward. I think an image you might all know, that game, Candy Crush Saga. Most successful game in the world. You know how much money they make per day? 300,000 euros a day with this game. A game which is free, by the way. 300,000 euros a day. The moment they have an actual clock on their board of the development room, the moment they drop under 300,000, they have to invent something new. Now, people play Candy Crush Saga because it's easy to play. My grandmother can play it, but you don't play it with other people, so no variability to the tribe. There's no tribe in there. There's no hunt. There's no material reward. You don't get money. You won't get rich from it. Instead, you're going to invest money in it. But there is the reward of the self. You go to the next level. Yes, I made it. The next achievement that you made. And that is enough to trigger you to play more. Even for those who are not in gaming. People who clean up their inbox every day are looking for variable rewards of the self. You got a new email. You cannot go to sleep with your email still full. You want to clean it up. You have your Kanban board, you have your Scrum board, you want to have your tasks finished. That is variability of the self in terms of consistency and completion. So we've had the trigger, we had the action, and we had the reward. Finally, there's the investment. The investment, that is what the user should do in order to come back the next time. because you want to go to that loop of the hook multiple times. So you invest something. How many people take photos day to day with their smartphones? They upload it to, for example, Facebook. Well, that's an investment that you do because you share your knowledge with Facebook. You don't download a PC. So in a few years' time, when your smartphone is dead, you're relying solely on Facebook to have all these images of you. That's the investment that you make. So you will come back to Facebook and you go to that loop over and over again. So to summarize, because the person available for giving the timing is already pointing that it's almost done. So I'm going to be very quick. Who knows this machine? The Atari, one of the first gaming computers. Well, Atari is the best acronym that you can have for the summary of this slide. Any habit that you want to create with your product, with your game, has 4 parts. The trigger, the action, the reward, and the investment. That is Atari. And I think the most common example of the last years of that process was this game, Pokemon Go. Well, what happened? I have an internal trigger. I am bored. I want to spend some time. What am I going to do? The action. I'm going to walk. I'm going to catch Pokemon. And I'm going to breed them by walking around. What is the reward that I get? Reward of the self. I got a level increase. Sometimes the level comes early, sometimes it comes slow. Sometimes I breed another Pokemon that I was expecting to. Variability. And then what is my investment? Well, I'm already there. Do I have to walk a little bit? Yeah, I almost made that level. So you go for the next level. So the next time you are bored, you start again. And you do it over and over and over again. Now this talk was more about design than it was on testing. What does that mean for us as testers? Well, for testers it's also important. Because as testers, we are focusing on requirements, on user stories, on use cases, while we should be focusing on the design also. You should ask yourself, your boss, your product owner, your team, a number of intriguing questions. Ask yourself while testing, are you willing to test that application again? And are you willing to do so within the next 2 days? If not, you will not create a habit with that application. The application will not monetize, and thus you should not test it. You should stop doing that. Second question, do you want to use that application on the toilet? Or even worse, do you want to go to the toilet to use the application? If not, it will not become a habit, it will not monetize, and you should not test it. Are you missing out on conversation while using that application? You're on dinner with friends, you're at a concert, you're around the table with your family, and people say, hey Michael, or hey, anybody in the room here, are you paying attention? Well, if you're not getting distracted by the application, then you will not create a habit, it will not monetize, and you should not test it. Are you teased by the application to spend money online, to improve your rating? While the game is for free, so you're looking for a free game and still you're spending money. And on top of that, when there's no guarantee that investing money will make it easier to win something. Again, if you don't answer yes to these 3 questions, stop doing it. Don't test it because it will not pay off in the end. It will never become a successful game. Now, creating insight in psychology is very nice. It's also very dangerous. And certainly as testers, we have a groundbreaking rule there. For us, there's a moral dilemma which is coming. The moral dilemma is just like a cigarette. Everything which is gaming, everything which is media, everything which is smartphone is a cigarette of the 21st century. It is so extremely addictive that people are losing money, time, and relationships over it. We are sometimes wasting too much time on things that don't really matter. You should ask yourself, as being tester, but also as developer, as analyst, as product owner, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to support that poor people continue to invest money in games in which they win nothing? Are you willing to do so? And if you are not willing to do so, will you still have a job in 5 years? That's the question you should ask yourself. That's the end of my presentation. I always say that the best quote comes at the end, Albert Einstein. But I think we're almost done. So if there are any questions, I'm here for you. I think there's a microphone if anybody has questions.
Есть немножко времени, буквально минутка. Если есть какой-нибудь вопрос, то, пожалуйста, задайте здесь, или можете ловить Майкла потом, ну, где хотите. Кто-нибудь? Нет?
There's somebody over there.
You have question?
Wojtek?
Michael, so how do you personally solve that personal dilemma about, like, am I doing right things?
I'm in a very positive position that I can choose which company I work for. So I'm actually not going to work for those kind of companies. I have to rephrase myself. If the company does this explicitly, if they have a technique that literally tries to push people to make money even though they don't have the budget, I refuse to work for them. If they do it just to improve the, for example, Pinterest has that model, but they don't make money out of you, I don't have a problem with that. But if you make people poorer and they get nothing in return, then I have a problem.
Если ни у кого пока больше нет вопросов, я думаю, что мы закончим на этом. Да? Если да, то похлопайте Майклу, пожалуйста.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.